Unstoppable Confidence. If you're serious about gaining more confidence, you must get this book, Robert Allen, The 1 Minute Millionaire. This wonderful book will give you the boost towards success that you can make all the difference. Brian Tracy. Imagine having the confident courage to go after your goals, successful career. Part 1. Getting into gear. Why confidence matters. Without self-confidence, we are babes in the cradle. Virginia Woolf. Confidence matters more than almost anything else determining success. Therefore, it's necessary and to understand exactly how important it is. Why confidence is important? Confidence is vital because it's the difference that makes the difference. When people consistently take action to make the appropriate course corrections, they get massive results and achieve all their goals. However, if they lack the confidence to take action, they will stay stuck. It would be no different than if they had no dreams or no goals at all. And after all, what's the point of wishing for anything if you don't pursue it? Having confidence, especially when it comes to having the ability to communicate, is absolutely essential. Without it, communicate effectively. The degree from which you are confident and communicate well with others is the degree from which you will succeed in life, no matter what context you're referring to. Business, family, friends, in which you'll experience in your career and so on. It is directly proportional to the degrees from which you will experience a rewarding and fulfilling life. We are naturally drawn to confident people. Imagine what it would be like to have people coming up just wanting to meet you simply because you're so confident that you automatically make an impression in their minds of being somebody different. Imagine how it feels to exude attractive energy, one that radiates out with and attracts people to you. Confident people appear to be more credible. Being confident will immediately turbocharge success in the business and relationships because you will come across more credible. If people ask you a question, you look at him or her straight in the eye, you have confidence and physiology, answering with an authoritative tone. It took a few blown real estate deals for me to learn this lesson the hard way. After all, if you don't project that you believe in yourself, how are investors supposed to believe in you? Confidence can make your dreams come true. Right now, as I write this book, I'm actually dictating it into an audio cassette recorder on a beautiful Thursday afternoon in Oregon, and I hear geese quacking in the background. It's a beautiful blue sky reflecting off a lovely pond. It's a puffy cloud kind of day, and there you want to relax and enjoy yourself, but it is because of using these techniques I'm prescribing that I'm going to be able to do so. My journey to unstoppable confidence. Now, before you think I was always this confident, let me tell you my story. I share this miserable tale of shyness and let you know that no matter how shy or unconfident you are now, you can improve and become more confident. My shy self. I had always been a shy child, continuing to shy into my shy young adult. I had a small, select group of close friends my entire life. I've never found enough confidence to introduce myself to strangers, and it led to a serious difficulties for me in dating and having relatings to women. And my friends and I excelled in school. It was our main focus, yet in the back of my mind I knew that I was missing out on something. When all the other people in high school were going out on dates, I thought to myself, man, it must be different, or what's that something that must be wrong with me? Consequently, I found myself rationalizing that I could be a great Lothario if I chose to, but in the main area of concentration and excellence was school. However, deep down I secretly desired to trade places with some of the other kids just to experience what it was like to go out on a date and even be comfortable with someone of the opposite sex. And more I thought about it and how much fun they were having hanging out and having normal teenage experiences, the worse I felt about myself. And it was as if I lacked the ability to really connect with other people on a deep level. Searching for the new way to escape, I turned my studying event harder into burying myself in the books, and at that time it was all I knew how to do. Now, in reflection, I can easily see that there were other choices available at the times, and we always have options, and it's important to be able to recognize many of these possible, and then naturally decide for ourselves which option suits us best. In 4 years of high school, I went to exactly one date. One, of course, it wasn't from who I initiated it. The girl approached me, asked me one day, and asked me if I wanted to hang out with her one night. Smiling broadly and trying to contain my overwhelming enthusiasm as an incredible, unprecedented event, I gladly accepted. Later in the week, she called me, and then we set the date, and following Friday, and the night came, she picked me up, and we went to a fast food restaurant nearby. All throughout the dinner, the conversation was strained as she tried her best to pry me loose from my shell, and everything that came out of the shell, I automatically retreated back into it simply because my dreadful habit of shyness. She did her absolute best to talk with me and have a good time. Still, I couldn't tell she saw my shyness as an obstacle to getting to know each other. And my saving grace was that I smiled a lot and reciprocated every question she asked me. The conversation went better as long as she did the talking. After we finished dinner, she drove us up to the mountains. We had a lookout point with a beautiful view of the city, and I was clear in a clear night sky with the stars illuminating high. She asked me for suggestions on what I wanted to do, but I was too shy to suggest anything for the fear of rejection. I didn't really understand the meaning of this field trip. Only later did I learn from high school that other high school friends that the place we went to was the designated makeout spot. While I was able to maintain good eye contact with the young lady, sometimes there was pauses in the conversation that seemed like an eternity to me, and at these times my internal dialogue came alive, as if it were an annoying young sibling whose life mission was to prevent me from enjoying myself. Does she want me to kiss her? What if I have a gunk in my teeth? What if I kiss her, and should I do it? Does she really like me? Is she bored with me? What should I say next? Why are we really here? What does it mean? What should I do next? Do I look at the stars outside the car with her, or should I hold her hand? My goodness, she sure is pretty. Is she noticing me? Turning red and with embarrassment? How come I'm so darn shy? Do I want to kiss her? What should I do? When should I do it? The internal dialogue continued on, as like for an entire night. No wonder I could not hold a conversation with her. How could I when I was so busy having conversations with myself? None of my attention was left over to talk to her. After an hour or more forced conversation, she finally dropped me off at home and offered a handshake in lieu of repeating one of my previous awkward episodes. Though the high school gossip grapevine, I found out that the young woman had recently broken up with her long-term boyfriend, immediately called me out. And I was wondering if it was really coincidence that she had gone to the restaurant where he had worked. Was she hoping he'd be there? My ultimate conclusion was that she was just trying to make him jealous and have me find out about the date, even though she did not have any interest in me. People thought of my inaction as unwillingness to initiate activity, and others was because I was so antisocial, aloof, indecisive, reactive, and generally unfriendly. What I found most painful was that I wanted to be social, proactive, decisive, and friendly. Only at the time, I didn't know how. That was the most frustrating part, behaving as if I was trapped in a shell and unable to do or be who I really was all along. Then in my college years, now as you've read the ultra shyness of high school, you may be thinking that this couldn't get any worse, and it did. One night, a few too many beers and my roommates and the friends spotted me screwing around on the computer and decided to get me to loosen up. Their mission thenceforth was to get me drunk as a skunk. They proceeded to apply some very persuasive peer pressure, invited me upstairs. Where the party was being held, being flattered that they even recognized me. I finally said yes and resolutely stated, and I would have a drink though. After getting upstairs and getting into the midst of the party, one of the generous roommates handed me an orange juice and said, "Drink it up. It's a stage of gratitude for all the attention." I chugged it. The next thing I knew, I was feeling tipsy, really relaxed, and my lips wouldn't stop moving. I was having lots of fun, though I was eventually realizing it was a semi-drunken stupor. I figured out that the orange juice was spiked with alcohol. However, I was finally feeling accepted, so I chose to drink some more, and it was my first experience with alcohol. I found out I quite liked being able to drink to the point of obvious inebriation, since it allowed me to relax and stop being so shy temporarily. After the great first drinking experience, I decided that I liked it, and I did a lot more. Then, when the weekend came, I talked to a number of people to find out where the party was being held. And once the party, I proceeded to get seriously drunk. My faulty logic was that if one beer was good, then 2 beers was even better. By following this logic, and by following it, I was drunk in no time, and I transformed myself into a shy wallflower who spoke to no one, into a raving, whirling dervish of humorous drunk who spoke to people, told jokes, laughed out loud and long, and had a great time. But it was at these parties that my friends had to tell me it was time to go home. But I never wanted to leave. This was my escape from the shyness, and I wanted to last as long as possible. I needed it to last as long as I could make it. That was why I was metaphorically playing the doctor, prescribing alcohol to myself and self-medication for my shyness. And at this point in time, you'd be wondering whether one of the unstoppable confidence techniques to get sloshed and drown out the shyness with alcohol. The answer is no. It's just that at that time I didn't realize that there was other ways to overcome shyness, and as a result of these parties I woke up in strange places, forgot what I had done previous nights before I was drunk, felt miserable, hangovers still in my mind. Drinking was my ticket out of shyness, and what I hadn't realized was that I had other options. But without these other options to be more confident, I did the best I could with what I knew, and at that, unfortunately, was to drink to excess. One day after having miserable hangover, I crossed the threshold and I knew it was time to stop. I decided that there was another way, and after all, I'd seen other people who behaved confidently without resorting to getting smashed. I decided I'd find out just what it was that they were doing. My search for solutions. My search for solutions began as I was searching for answers. I found myself reading a number of self-help books. From the self-help books gained a little knowledge, useful exercise, and enhanced my confidence in myself and allowed me to relax in the presence of others. Finally, I promised myself that I would become confident in whatever I wanted to do. And I was fiercely determined to gain confidence, ultimately in the experience of breaking out of my shell that made it possible. Specifically in the case, I was talking to women. I decided I would approach every single woman I saw. At first, it was simply smiling at them, and you know what? They responded. Not all of them, but enough to encourage me to expand my comfort zone a little further. The small success catapulted me into the next step, expanding my comfort zone. Next, I would approach women and simply say hi. Again, this slight widening of my comfort zone encouraged me, and after all, I was an adult and had to take care of my confidence myself. I had two choices. I could either retreat back into my comfort zone and be shy, blaming someone else for making me that way, or I could take responsibility and go for it. Then my confidence really grew. I got to the point where I could meet women and gain instant rapport with them, conversation with ease. Following your dreams. Following your dreams confidence ultimately gave me the ability to leave my job and start my own business. Confidence is what I needed to follow my dreams. I'm sure as you read this, you can find your own reasons of why it's important for you to go out and find your own dreams. Picture your idea of bliss. What does this look like? What does it sound like? Who are you with? How much fun are you having? What time are you getting up? What time do you go to sleep? How do you take a nap? Because you can? Do you take a nap because you can? No matter what your dreams are, when you use the techniques in this book, you'll develop an unstoppable confidence to go after those dreams and make them a reality. By keeping your vision in mind, imagining it vividly and regularly, you automatically teach your unconscious mind to lead you to that day. And won't that day be wonderful? Chapter 2. Origins of Confidence. Courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not absence of fear. Mark Twain. Up until now, how have you thought of yourself? Were you shy like I was? Were you tentative? A lack of confidence usually comes from one of the following areas. Lack of confidence usually comes from society at large, your parents, school and your peers, and then mass media. Well, in addition, you may have become shy because of hypersensitivity or even because you believe that you were born that way. In this chapter, we'll explore the reasons you may lack confidence. In the process, we'll debunk the false premises behind these reasons. And if you have children, we'll discuss how you can prevent shyness from happening to them. You'll instill unstoppable confidence in them. Society. In many ways, society's conditions people to go with the flow, or you better accept what is offered and not to make any waves or go against tradition. Well, sometimes this is falsely interpreted as advice to not follow your dreams. If you need to step outside of what is normal or usual to pursue your dreams, then do that exactly. So society is not your influence. Parents. Parents can be a major contributor to your lack of confidence. Throughout life, their purpose is to teach their children, to help them to experience their full potential, to be who they were meant to be. Yet sometimes parents strip away the child's individuality and inadvertently instill what the child perceives as limitations. Parents often try to get the kids on conform to the view of what they think is correct. And how many times have you heard these following phrases? Act like a grown-up. Stop acting childish as if that were a bad thing. Be realistic. Or get your head out of the clouds. And you're such a dreamer. Or you can't do that. No one has ever done that before. Parents usually have positive intentions motivating their behavior, yet sometimes they don't communicate that. Take the phrase act like a grown-up. What does that mean? Well, to have all the limits most adults do. But not to play and experience pure joy like a child, to not learn, wonder, or explore. If that's acting like a grown-up, I'd rather pass. Or consider the phrase, stop acting childish. Well, the notion of exploring, laughing a lot, or learning a lot, or really what life is all about. So it would seem like kids have the right idea after all. By this definition, acting childish or stop acting childish, it's a natural state of humans actually. What's about the notion of being realistic? What does that really mean? Realistic according to whom? Well, how specifically should I be realistic? The phrase is ludicrous, and calling people dreamers or telling them to get your head out of the clouds does not help them. It only instills limits in them and helps to bring them back into the blind of what is socially acceptable. School. School has a huge influence over children. They're mandated to go. Teachers are powerfully authoritative figures. The peer pressure is extremely high. With all taught to fit in, everyone wants to fit in. So how does the school create a lack of confidence? One factor is peer pressure. Some kids make fun of anyone who does anything differently. School can also divide kids into different learning tracks, which is also unfortunate. Kids can be quite intelligent, much smarter than typically given them credit for. They understand the labels that go with different learning tracks, and they integrate these into their identities. The students labeled slow integrated this as a belief, I stink at math, and as they beliefs help shape their reality and their whole way of being. A research study shows in the 1960s showed that powerfully expectation influences and performances influences performance. One teacher was told her class students was exceptional, but in the reality is they were standard across-the-section students with exceptional class performed exceptional that year. And the teacher commented on how eager the students wanted to learn and how much they enjoyed teaching. How much she enjoyed teaching them. The next year, another normal cross-section students in her class. At the time, the experiments told that her students were poor and poor performers. An exception to the beliefs and create a reality, the poor students performed awfully. And the same teacher who had just had the exceptional students a prior year remarked how awful the students were, how much they hated learning, and how much hard it was for her to teach. Now, we could take this idea and project only positive expectations onto our children. Furthermore, we can expect excellence from all of these people we interact with. You can expect excellence from everybody, and it will surprise you to learn how often people will rise up to whatever standards that you set for them. Mass media. A lack of confidence also comes from the media, mainstream media funded in advertising. Ultimately, it's out to get people to consume. Network television programs free because advertisers give them networks large amounts of money in order to introduce their products to the captive audience. Terrestrial radio is free for the same reason. Individuality is dangerous to these advertisers because when you think of for yourself, you can decide for yourself whether the producer is right, the product is right for you or not. You won't be buying for the sake of conformity and keeping up with the Joneses. It is to the advertiser's benefit if you lack confidence. They have tactics of telling everyone else that the product is there for them, and it must be as well. If it's for everyone else, they teach you to feel bad if you don't have their product. They teach you that life can become an instant party if you consume their product. My favorite example is that this is the stereotypical beer commercial. To watch less than healthy guy watching TV endlessly, you see him giving a beer and you already know what happens next. At least according to the commercial, life instantly becomes a party. Beautiful women swoon over him. If he realizes he has his dream sports car, he's vacationing on a tropical island, he can forget about any of life's ordinary troubles. It behooves the media to do this to sell more products. Hypersensitivity. Hypersensitivity, sometimes being oversensitive, can lead to shyness. People can become afraid of doing anything or fear the offending person or getting into trouble. Being sensitive may be useful in some contexts, such as when you really want to emphasize with another person. But if a person is super sensitive all the time, it becomes detrimental. I know this because I used to be hypersensitive and I never spoke or never stepped outside of the comfort zone. I never did anything that might have the remotest possibility of aggravating people. This occurred as a result of my incapacitated fear. I figured that since I was so sensitive, others must be the same way. Therefore, I decided it was necessary to tiptoe around people so as to manage their feelings. Only later did I discover the nonsense this turned out to be. It's important to be sensitive to one point, but at the same time, you need to have confidence to do what it takes to achieve your goals. People are remarkably resilient, and if you have the confidence accidentally hurt someone's feelings, there's a very simple remedy: your apology. You apologize, resolve not to do it again, and move on. It's really that simple. The myth of shy gene. Some people label themselves as, I just have the shy gene. It brings me to the myth of genetic shyness. Many people simply accept the shyness as rationalizing it by saying, well, that's just the way I am. Or what a loaded phrase. Step back again. That's just the way I am. Or that's just me. That's who I am. What a loaded phrase. These people need to stop saying that as if they are chanting negativity reinforcing mantra. The real secret is broken affirmations that keeps people stuck. The affirmation every day and in every way I'm getting better and better. What about that affirmation? Every day and in every way I'm getting better and better. It's famous affirmation by Emile Coe. It's an early self-help pioneer, and I'm shy because that's the way I am. That's also an affirmation, but it should be appended with the statement according to me. You can decide that you were born with shyness, sure, but you can also decide that you could break free from it. And the myth that person simply is or is not shy is one of the worst myths ever passed from a disempowered people to the other disempowered people. Believing that your parents were shy and that's what caused you to be shy is no excuse. The same goes for kids. People do not become shy automatically. They are born. There's no shyness gene. People become what they've learned to behave and act like in a certain way. When I was shy around people, it was because I was in the habit of looking at a person and thinking he or she won't like me. This was always left in my mind. I was feeling bad inside, picturing the person rejecting me and feeling immense and paralyzing fears. Well, that was simply the way I've learned to behave. I only knew one way of behaving, but fortunately, I found more choices. Your parents may or may not have influenced you to be shy, but that's different from the inflicting that you as some untreatable genetic disease, which is really what this means when people say, that's just the way I am. The truth about shyness is, let me tell you the truth in the myth of I'm shy. It's an excuse that enables people to stay stuck. It is not straight. Shy is not straight. It's the only way of acting. And if you cannot act one way, and if you can act one way, that means you can act another way too. Shy is a behavioral mode. It's not an adjective or it describes a person. It's actually a behavioral mode. And it's not a state of being. It's a way of acting. And if you can behave in a confident manner too, then you can behave in a confident manner too. You always have the choice. People locked into that I'm shy excuses, they don't realize that they have a choice. Consider this. If you could choose your identity, if you could choose the way you see yourself, would you deliberately label yourself as shy, as a person lacking confidence, as hesitant and anything less than glorious? Absolutely not. And yet that's unfortunately what so many people do when they say, I'm shy, or I'm just not confident, or anything else of that nature. Therefore, it's important to avoid the phrase I'm shy. Worse than saying I'm shy, though it's talking about shyness as if some sort of disease or disorder. Yeah, he has a case of shyness. He has a shyness disorder. Well, that's the most ridiculous thing ever. If you walk into a room and I walk into a room of shy people and bug that's flying around bites me, I do become shy too. No, that's a downright absurd. People don't go walking around one day and go, they crumple up to the ground and then get diagnosed with shyness. The fear and F-E-A-R, fear. Have you ever watched kids play? They really don't know to dig in and thoroughly enjoy themselves. They really know how to dig in and thoroughly enjoy themselves. When they're having a good time, kids totally embrace whatever they are doing in the moment with joyful abandon. Kids are true dreamers. Children, in essence, have not been trained yet to their own limitations the way adults have. In fact, children enter the world with only two natural fears, the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Aside from these, all other fears are learned. Human beings are magnificent at learning. Because they have learned from fear things, aside from the only two natural fears, you can naturally empower yourself to move past your fear by learning new ways of behaving. A study is conducted among adults to research their greatest fears, and the fear of public speaking rated highest other than any other fear or of death. This is irrational. Being more afraid of public speaking than of death is a direct result of learning to fear something that does not need to be feared. Fear can be characterized in an acronym. Fear, meaning false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. Fear. When people realize that public speaking is simply a process, not a life or death event, the false evidence disappears with it and goes the fear. With the fear gone, people can be in their more natural, confident selves. Confidence is our natural state of being. It's a state of confidence. Should we be natural in a state of being? The fact is that we were born and simply not self-conscious. It's not like we popped out of the womb and say, oh, I'm naked. Could somebody please give me some clothes here? Oh, I'm shy now. Oh no, everybody, look at me, I'm naked. Children are already in their natural state of being, absolutely confident, full of wonder, ready to explore the world around them. What if we were to adopt that same childlike attitude for going after what we wanted to in the world? When you were first born, did you immediately stand up and start walking around, though it were not completely normal to you? Obviously you did not. Well, neither did I, and neither did anyone else. In learning how to walk, children take that attitude. Hey, I'm going to go do some walk. I'm going to do that walking thing. And I see others around me doing it, so I know I could do it too. I'm going to persevere. I'm going to persevere. It didn't matter how many times I fall down. It didn't matter how many times I got up. All that mattered is, it only mattered that I just kept getting up. And if you get the chances, watch kids as they begin to walk. They crawl around, stand up, wobble, wobble, fall down, then they do it again, over and over again. Kids continue doing this until they learn how to consistently walk. Nothing will stop them from learning how to walk. When you have the same attitude and going after your goals, nothing will stop you from achieving them. What if kids infected you with the same useless attitudes of some adults have? What if kids were infected with the same useless attitudes? If we try something, it doesn't work, we just give up. We'd all have people who refuse to walk just because they didn't get up perfectly when they were kids. They tried it once and they didn't even work or try it again, so they gave up and decided they weren't going to be walkers. Can you picture a little baby with his arms crossed, pouting, scowling intensely just because he took the lackadaisical adult attitude? If something didn't immediately work, then he just gave up? Can you imagine a little baby saying in a snooter manner, "Walking isn't for me, I do other things. I tried it once and it really was not cut out for me. Walking isn't for me." Kids kept going on until they mastered their skills. That's what they do. We as adults need to learn from them and keep that same attitude that kids have towards learning and walking. Chapter 3. What is confidence? All our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. Walt Disney. In order to understand what confidence is, it is necessary to define both what it is and what it is not. Once we are on the same page as what is confidence is and isn't, we can move forward towards gaining unstoppable confidence. What confidence is not. Confidence means different things to so many different people. Similarly, confidence also evokes certain feelings and automatic reactions within people. Before you go any further in shedding light on what confidence is, we'll discover what it is absolutely not. Arrogance versus confidence. Arrogance versus confidence. Sometimes arrogance is mistaken for confidence. They're not the same things, folks. Arrogance is either a honed reaction or an infectation. Whatever it is, it's definitely not something completely different. It's something completely different from confidence. Arrogance leans towards elitism, being macho, showing off, and so on. Have you ever seen those really huge guys with bulging muscles, the ones who are overdeveloped to the point that they find it necessarily to thrust their chest out and swagger in the utmost cocky way? This is an example of arrogance, but not true confidence. It is from what they consider themselves better than everyone else solely because they're so large. True confidence comes from within, and when you realize you are confident, you do not feel the need to proclaim it to the world. Now contrast the example of arrogance with the following example of true confidence. Stop for a moment and consider the famous muscular movie star Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. These guys did not go around with puffed up chests thinking they're better than everyone else. Instead, they had a quiet but powerful confidence that comes from acute awareness of their abilities. This is a major difference, and we'll explore this further later in the book. But it is never necessary to shout out from the mountaintops in order to convey that you are a confident individual. These people who do so are hardly even confident. They're more like trying to appear. And I have met many people who are confident and many people who have lacked confidence. The truly confident people have the similar trait. It's that their confidence came from within and it did not have to be voiced. A nonchalant, matter-of-fact confidence is ideal. It's just a nonchalant, matter-of-fact confidence. Now, there's no need to brag about one's accomplishments. Those who brag are the only ones making their insecurities about themselves. Allow your results to speak for themselves. Action speaks louder than words. So, take your confidence and make it happen. If someone has to continually broadcast his or her confidence, it really makes me wonder. It seems that this person is not really confident at all. Instead, this person is often trying to convince himself or herself by proclaiming it to the others. In his or her own mind, this helps it more official. Makes it more official in their mind. But the person trying to gain confidence in an ineffective manner. Confidence comes from within, and when you believe in yourself, others will believe in it too. This is a universal law and a secret known to all leaders. It does not work another way around, no matter how much you would prefer it to. There are as far easier and more effective ways to skyrocket your confidence than waiting for others to believe in you. You will learn them later on in this book as well. Now you have belligerence versus confidence. Now let's talk about the difference between belligerence and confidence. Using relationships as an example, sometimes women are apparently attracted to jerks. And I'm not sure many of us have seen the examples in our lives or perhaps what someone has currently done in this situation on the surface. The jerk exhibits some bad boy traits that some women may perceive as confidence. The jerk is probably convincing himself that he has it all going on. What masquerades as confidence to the jerk is belligerence. This presents oneself in a form of super aggressive attitude. You can and should always assert yourself whenever you deem it necessary. However, this does not mean bullying people, treating them badly, or trampling all over them. Belligerence is what makes a jerk just that. The jerk is abrasive and cares little for the relationship he forms with others. Instead, he chooses to bulldoze his way through life. True confidence, however, allows to go through life easily, effectively, getting results that you want, to make people feel good when they have dealt with you. People making people feel good even if it's for no reason other than just because you can. The true confidence comes from within. Now take a moment and think of an area of your life where you may be confident and ask yourself this question. How do you know that you are proficient in that area? Name that area. Again, how do you know that you are proficient in songwriting, proficient in breakdancing, proficient in music? How do you know that you're proficient in dancing, period? And being completely honest with yourself, supply an answer. And if you absolutely know that you are proficient in the area you choose because your own thoughts are filling a belief system that you told so, congratulations! You are really confident in that area. Now, if you were not sure about the proficiency in your area or that you had to rely on external confirmation from your peers, spouse, supervisor, you are not quite yet as confident as you can be. Well, by the end of this book, after doing the exercises, you'll be right there. When you have done all the exercises completed in this book, you will have the true confidence that comes from within. Confidence, or lack of thereof, is a reality across all demographics, across all races, all economic levels, all allegations. There's always some people who are confident and some people who are not. Even a rich and famous movie star who many people envy and consider to have it all gets nervous at times because he or she wants to perform well. Competence versus confidence. Are confident and competence the same thing? No, in fact. They are quite distinct, and understanding the difference is essential. Competence is defined as the ability to do something, and confidence defined as your belief about your competence. Each of us has an individuality, experience, beliefs, and values that make us perceive life in our own individual way. Everyone has his or her own perception of reality, a unique model of the world. This means that it's only in a perception, not in reality. The empowering part of this idea is that those beliefs can be changed and in turn change one's perception of life. This means that the exercises and strategies described in this book will change your beliefs and your perception of what is possible for yourself. Confidence without competence? Confidence without competence. Well, it is absolutely a recipe for disaster to lack competence yet possess a project unjustified confidence. Take, for example, someone who has never flown a plane before, has ridden on a plane, and thinks she or now is an ace pilot, since he has read a book on about a decade ago. Would you let that person fly you across the country? I would get off that plane as fast as people would think as I was a blur. You can easily see how there was numerous examples of confidence without competence, and why it's dangerous. Competence without confidence. Competence without confidence. People are competent and yet lacking the confidence are stuck in a quagmire. They might have been a perfect understanding in some powerful concepts without even taking action. Someone who has the knowledge and the competence to do something and does nothing instead is no better off than someone who is clueless and incompetent. Again, someone who has the knowledge and the competence to do something and does nothing instead is no better off than someone who is clueless and incompetent. Now, when I was getting started in my own real estate investment, I was a classic example of competence without confidence. I studied and studied and studied real estate, and I read 10 books, took 3 home study courses, attended a seminar, signed up for 2 mentoring programs, and still I was stuck big time in this quagmire that I wasn't even aware of or could get caught in. I saw others being successful and knew exactly how they were doing it and knew how they were doing it, but when I asked them about it, they confirmed to me that they were just doing exactly what I was only thinking about. Now, what was holding me back? Was it my lack of confidence? My fear of the unknown? I wouldn't have known absolutely everything about all the real estate before taking any action at all. So I kept studying and studying, trying in vain to learn everything so I could actually get started. Meanwhile, the people around me had their businesses taking off because they were taking action. The 4 levels of competence. There are 4 levels of competence that people go through and develop to skills. Those 4 levels are unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, and unconscious competence. You will travel through these stages as you reach unstoppable confidence. The 4 levels of competence. Competence is knowing something. The 4 levels are unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence. You have conscious competence and unconscious competence. Unconscious incompetence. Unconscious incompetence means you do not possess a skill nor even the awareness of how to use that skill could be. Someone who is extremely shy and does not even recognize how beneficial learning how to be more confident would be, for him or her, could be considered unconsciously incompetent in that area of confidence. I spent the first 20 years of my life like this, being shy and knew no other way of being, nor I was cognizant of the fact that other people didn't have to live trapped in my shells. By reading this book, you have already passed through the stage of unconscious incompetence. Picking up this book means you are already looking for a better way to live, which means you're at least at the next stage of perhaps further on your unstoppable confidence journey. Unstoppable confidence, conscious incompetence, conscious incompetence. When I was in college, I finally looked around and realized just how shy I was and other people were actually confident. I had moved to the second level of skill development, which is the conscious incompetence. And I became aware just how shy I was. And when we become aware of something lacking in our lives, it is a great opportunity because that means we can take a chance to improve our lives. When I became conscious of my incompetence, I began reading numerous self-help books and doing exercises, attended seminars, watched videos, basically tried anything to further my confidence. And the more I worked on myself the same way as you are doing now by reading this book, the further I moved towards conscious competence. Conscious competence is a state of being in which you can apply a skill, yet you have to consciously think about applying the skill, and the skill is not yet a habit for you. The vast majority of you at this point in the book are probably consciously, unstoppably confident. Now, you know how to be confident, and that's a matter of developing this into a habit. Now, give yourself the gift of your own 21-day unstoppable confidence challenge. Deliberately practice your confidence for 21 days consecutively until you reach the skill level of unconsciously competence. Unconscious competence. Unconscious competence is the fourth level of skill development called unconscious competence. Unconscious competence. This is the ultimate stage of any skill. Unconscious competence is the state from which the skill has been ingrained as a habit. You don't gonna have to spend your time thinking about applying the skill. People who are masters of what they do in the function in the level of consciously competence, of unconscious competence, if someone were to inquire about how specifically they perform at such high levels, they may not be able to verbally describe what they do. The reason for this is that they are no longer conscious of what they do in order to perform at such great feats. Competence plus confidence equals success. Now, competence plus confidence equals success. Being unstoppable means you have both competence and confidence and going for it. This is what this book is all about, having competence and confidence. And when you have the competence to do what you want and the confidence to follow through and take action, you're going to be unstoppable. The 9 Factors of Unstoppable Confidence, Chapter 4. Courage is the first human quality because it's the quality which guarantees all others. Winston Churchill. Now that we've defined what confidence is and isn't, let's look at 9 factors that stand between you and unstoppable confidence. You must learn to memorize all of them if you wish to master this program and make your dreams come true. The 9 factors are as followed: experience, perception, decisiveness, empowerment, goals, action, motivation, momentum, and commitment. Factor 1, experience. There are certain beliefs that are more empowering than others when you are doing something for the first time. How you perform the first time you take on a new challenge will affect you on how you perform when faced with it again later. Believing the following affirmations will enable you to achieve greater results more quickly. There's a first time for everything, so when doing something for the first time, remember this. The first time I do this is the hardest. Each and every time I do this, it does get easier, and when I succeed, it will study my actions so I can improve even more. And if I don't get the right outcome, I'll learn from my mistakes and do things differently next time. And it does get easier. That's all you have to remember about doing anything for the first time. Keep these affirmations in mind as you overcome difficult tasks and tackle adversity in the forms of something that you have not done before. The Confidence Success Cycle. In this book, I've given you many generalizations about confidence, and it's important to define what confidence means to you specifically. Now, what do you expect to see, hear, feel when you experience confidence? The reason it's important to know is that so when you achieve the level of confidence you desire, you'll know when you've arrived. With ultimate confidence in yourself, and other people will believe in you too, also your belief in yourself will increase exponentially as others come to count on you. You will also have confidence to risk stepping outside of your comfort zone, and you will also find yourself achieving things that were previously impossible. This in turn will give you more confidence, and others will believe in you even further. This concept is the first basis for the confidence success cycle. Your confidence success increases cyclically as you continue to push the limits and achieve like you've never had before. Factor 2. Perception. In the course of this book, I've introduced a lot of concepts, some from which you'll probably accept it straight away, and others from which you have doubts and had to think about more. Well, I'll continue to give you new concepts and ideas that may challenge you the old ways of thinking. For instance, you may not believe this next concept as a key concept of neuro-linguistical programming. Neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, described as more detailed in the introduction at first, but as you think about it carefully, you'll realize how pervasively it applies to your life. Already. Are you ready? What does it mean? Meaning does not exist as a concrete reality. It is purely a subjective phenomenon of perception. What does it mean? How do you think about something is entirely up to you. You could put a positive or negative frame around whatever experience you have in life. Since you have always the choice to either laugh or cry based on the experience, do whichever you prefer, and I prefer laughing. So I find myself doing that more often. A friend of mine told me this story, and he was sitting on a bench out in a park right next to a rather large crack in the sidewalk, and a man came by, tripped on the crack, fell on his face, and fell face first into the bushes next to the sidewalk. Dusting himself off, he quickly got up, glanced around to see if anyone was watching, and unfortunately for him, my friend was watching the entire episode. Noticing this, the man turned several shades and red before hurrying away as fast as he could. Later that same night, a woman came walking across the same path in the same place in the sidewalk. She tripped, fell flat on her back, spontaneously reacted to let loose with a fully belly laugh. She laughed so hard she began crying. She acted as if the slip was the funniest experience she's ever had, and it seemed she could not stop herself from laughing. By the time her laughter had died down, my friend was staring at her nonchalantly. She picked herself up, smiled, and acknowledged my friend, and happily darted off into the night. The meaning of any experience, event, or interaction varies widely upon two people because their choices as to from which the ways of they make it. If someone offers you an insult, remember that it's only the person's opinion. By adopting that useful belief, you can move thoroughly and through the world more prepared to deal with anything that life throws at you. Contrast this with any way of some people take insults personally and waste your valuable time and energy being bothered by them. You are a meaning maker. You are a meaning maker. And if you have to perceive some comment to be derogatory, stop yourself and give it more positive spins. Do this because you can. Now remember, nobody else has the power to determine your own perception of events, only you. So, in my own life, I had a business project and it went sour, and for a while I spent some time being bitter and frustrated and stuck in my victim mentality. Finally, I started to ask myself a question like, well, what can I learn from this experience, and what does the outcome of this project really mean? And when I asked myself these questions, I immediately recognized that I could shift into a more useful mentality. And what had been a sore point for me became an opportunity to look at the adversity as a challenge. And it now is up to me to rise above and conquer and over the difficult situation in order to achieve the right outcome. It is exactly what happened. Had I latched onto the victim mentality and refused to let go, I would have never completed my own business project. And any time you choose, you could change your perception and create a new meaning for something. Factor 3. Decisiveness. It is easy to identify people who have unstoppable confidence just by watching the way they make a decision. The deciding factor. Confident people make decisions rapidly and with a sense of finality. Once a decision is made, they are committed to it, and they rarely change their minds. Confident people never waver because they know what they want. As we saw earlier in the book, it is imperative to know what you have wanted beforehand. That way, when either an opportunity or a problem presents itself, you can think hard and ask yourself, hey, is this congruent with what I want? Does this coincide with my personal policies and my integrity? Asking yourself these questions allow you to size up the decision that you are making so that you can come back with a decisive and confident answer. Steps of confidence decision making. Steps of confident decision making. Prior to undertaking anything, there are some things that you have known about yourself. This may sound simple enough, but it is sometimes very different to know what is in your heart. What is it that you want? What is your ultimate goal? What are your personal policies that influence your integrity? And who are you? What is it that you stand for? What are the acceptable and unacceptable outcomes for your goal? Asking yourself these questions with face of any kind of decision will help you make a confident decision. And it will help you with your confident decision making. Before anything else, you need to take an inventory of yourself. Get to know yourself, who you are and what you stand for, where you are going with your life and how you are going to get there, and what you know about the answers. Everything else becomes very simple. Now, if a question of a problem of an opportunity arises, you need to size up your situation from all angles in order and be a confident decision maker. Look at it in front of your position. Look at it in front of the other side and look at how your position will affect you over time. If you were to say yes to this decision and move forward with it, how would it impact your life? Imagine yourself a few months down the road after having a yes in the decision. Imagine in 5 years, how is your life? Again, if you were to say yes to this decision and move forward with it, how would it impact your life? Imagine yourself a few months down the road after having said yes to this decision. Imagine 1 year, 5 years. Now how's your life? Think about how the future might be if you said no. What might your life be like then? What might it be like in a few weeks, months, few years? Once you have seen the picture clearly in your mind, decide that it's congruent with your goals or not, and let your goals be your roadmap always. Let your goals be your roadmap. Trust your internal voice. Another difference between people who are unstoppable with confidence and those who do not, who do not, is that people with unstoppable confidence trust in their internal voices. Although they listen to others too for feedback, they tend to really place more of their weight on their own internal voice than the voices of those around them. People who lack unstoppable confidence tends to listen to the voices around them far too much. This leads to propensity and conformist thinking, because people listening to the following of everyone else's will naturally become like everyone else. People who are unstoppable have to rely on their own internal voice. Otherwise, they would allow everything else to be stinking thinking. Else would be stinking thinking to convince them that whatever goals they are seeking to accomplish cannot be achieved. Listening to your internal voice means that you recognize what is valid. Useful feedback is what is negative, destructive criticism. People who listen to your internal voice are said to have internal frame of reference. People who follow your voices of others are said to have external frame of reference. Internal and external frames of reference. The way to discover your personal style is in this manner. If you haven't already, ask yourself the following questions. If nobody told you, would you know what to do? How would you do what you've done? How do you know you've done a great job? Does someone else need to give you answers? Who decides if you're getting the best use out of your time? As you answer each of these questions honestly, you might notice a pattern emerging. If you answer and based off the other's feedback, right now you have an external frame of reference. Now if you answer based off your internal voice, then your gut feeling, you'll have an internal frame of reference. Factor 4, empowerment. When you are unstoppably confident, there is a powerful difference between you and the normal population. The difference is control. You have more control over the environment, over the emotional state, over your beliefs, ultimately over your actions. That is the simple difference between people who are empowered and people who are not. People who are not empowered have excuses, control. People who are not empowered have all the reasons why it is impossible to be, to do, or to have something. Those who are unstoppable realize that everything that you want to do is under their own control. They are the masters of their own universe, and they don't know how to do something. If they don't know how to do something, they realize that there's some other resource that will teach them how to do it. And I like to think of myself as a reverse paranoid. A reverse paranoid is a person who thinks that the universe is perfect and that everything on the planet wants to help him or her achieve his or her dreams. I'm a reverse paranoid. That means that I believe that the universe is actually perfect and that everybody on the planet actually wants to help me achieve my goals and dreams. By the law of reciprocity, in order to fulfill my dreams, I'm going to help others make their dreams come true. The universe works for such rewards for those who serve others. The greater of the energy is that you put forth, coupled with the service you provide to others, the better the result you will enjoy when you ask yourself, how can I be of service to others today? How can I be of service to others today? How can I serve this person I'm talking to today? Always contemplate that. When you ask yourself that, you will experience a paradigm shift of great proportions. Greater empowerment equals more choices. Empowered people simply have more choices than dispowered people. People who do not allow themselves to find other choices available to them are likely to become disempowered. Although, always contemplate the number of choices that you have in any given situation and do your best to generate more options. Perhaps there's an option that you have thought of that you would like to have as ideal. All you need to do now is empower yourself to think of the solution and then act on it. With greater empowerment comes truer sense of freedom because you have the liberty to choose from more options. Adding more options to your life. There's an easy way to add more options to your life. Pay attention to people who use language. Language indicates how they view the world. It can easily empower us to limit us through what we say. Some people use their language to try to force limitations on you. Anytime someone offers you two choices, beware. Ask yourself if there are any choices that have not been mentioned. Is there anything stopping you from choosing your options? The more options you make, the more empowered you are, which means you will have a greater chance of success. Salespeople are taught to intentionally use their language to limit our apparent choices. For example, let's suppose you found a certain model of automobile that you like, and the salesperson might say something like in the effect of, well, now that you've decided on this car, would you like to pay for this in cash, or do you want to finance it through us? The question automatically assumes that you're going to purchase the car, and with the only remaining detail being now specifically of what you want or how you want to pay for it. Even if you did want to purchase the car, there might be another payment option that the salesperson's limiting statements hasn't covered. What if there was a hybrid part cash, part financing option? That is not reflecting in the salesperson's statement, is it? Well, here's some questions to generate more options when you're presented with only a few options. Well, what's stopping us from doing both? Or all? Or is that all the options only? Or what other options haven't we examined yet? What other options haven't we examined yet? Are these our only options? Disempowered people simply find themselves to lacking choices, which thus compelled to enact upon their addictions, not only of choice, but of our sheer necessity. Even if we were to consider psychopathic criminals, they appear as if they are forced to perform these evil deeds. In interviews, they often reveal how they went to great lengths to cover them up, as they did because they internally understood that it was wrong. Inevitably, the question gets posed to them of why they perpetrated the violent acts. As if they could truly understand the acts were immoral and wrong, they acknowledged that while they knew it was wrong, they felt as if they had no other options and their criminal acts were their only choice. Again, this is simply their perception of reality. I'm not condoning or apologizing for criminal behavior, but rather pointing out the fact that these people need to make better choices for themselves and do not need to first need to become aware of those choices and realize their validity. The initial step to becoming more empowered is to eliminate the belief that you have few choices and replace the belief to the knowledge that you have many choices. You always have the freedom to choose, no matter what the situation, even in the times from which you apparently lack a choice. There really is a solution. There really is always a solution. When you keep this belief as you go through life, you will find that you have an enriched sense of control over your life, which escapes most people. Factor 5. Goals. A natural complement to unstoppable confidence is being goal-oriented. Goal orientation and confidence form a combination that will make all of your dreams come true. Goal orientation and some confidence. Some confidence with your goal orientation is the recipe for a combination that will make all your dreams come true. Some set goals. Have you the foresight to know what you want in your life, to set up some long-term goals, and when they're fully realized, you will find yourself living your dream with your long-term vision defined? Plan out your own medium-range goals. These are the goals from which, between your immediate time and short-term ones, your long-term vision. Now, when you accomplish your medium-term goals, you will find that you are right on track to achieving everything else that you want. Break down all your medium goals into a smaller immediate goal with your accompanying of a next year. By the next year, then continue breaking down the goals until you have monthly and then weekly ones. Finally, you will have specific actions to undertake each and every day in order to move ultimately towards your dreams of life. Set an outcome for everything you do in life with your purpose. You will be glad that you did. As a way a climber reaches the summit of a mountain is to continue putting on a foot after another foot towards the top. It is the same way from which one runs a marathon, one step at a time. What is essential is always keeping going. Never quit. Do it now. Keep it going. Never quit. Do it now. At Harvard studies on goal setting that took place in the 1950s, in a Harvard study, there was a following study in the 1950s, and it followed up in the 1980s. The study is that in the 1950s showed that 3% of the respondents had set goals at the time of their graduation. By the 1980s hit, this 3% was financially worth more than the remaining 97% combined. Again, by the 1980s, the 3% was financially worth more than the remaining 97% combined. Now, these people had focus and direction, and these were displayed by setting their goals. They gained maximum benefits from this book. You've got to set goals. We will begin this journey when we're taking together by setting goals in your own personal growths. Now, outcomes versus goals. Outcomes and goals are similar in scope, but they have subtle differences. Goals typically have weightier stakes attached, whereas an outcome is a mini goal. An outcome is a mini goal from which you desire from a particular situation. A goal is a dream with a deadline. When you hang out with your friends and the outcome is simply to have a good time, you don't have a goal when you're hanging out with them, but most recent goal in life is to sell a certain number of copies of this book within the next year. The magnitude of this goal, of this outcome, differ. Though outcomes are much smaller in scope, they are still very useful. By identifying what you want out of any activity or interaction, you will much more likely be to obtain it. Now, if you didn't know what I wanted out of this interaction or activity, would you know how to proceed? I wouldn't. Well, after you decide on your outcome or goal, figure out what it's going to take to accomplish it. Now, what kind of person will you have to be in order to make these dreams come true? Again, when you got your goal in front of you, you have to figure out what it's going to take to accomplish this. And what kind of person do you need to be in order to make it come true? And once you know, commit to becoming that kind of person. Smart questions for making smart goals. Smart questions for making smart goals. Stop for a moment and answer these questions. Smart questions. S.M.A.R.T. S.M.A.R.T. Goals. What do you want to get out of this book? What's stopping you from getting this right now? What's important to you about achieving your goals? What will it be like for you to have accomplished the unstoppable confidence? What will having unstoppable confidence do for you? Are you ready to eliminate all your fear, uncertainty, and hesitation and doubt forever? How will you know when you have unstoppable confidence? Well, after answering these questions, you are now ready to set a SMART goal for yourself. The acronym SMART stand for SMART. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, timed. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, timed. SMART. Specific makes your outcome specific when you state when you will see, hear, feel, and experience it. This will help you provide points from you can check to verify if you have undoubtedly achieved your desired outcome. A general outcome may be, well, I want to get confidence out of this book. And that does not work as well as following up specific outcomes. I want to gain 2 specific strategies from eliminating my fear of changing jobs and gain confidence in knowing I will succeed at whatever I have a job. Succeed at whatever job that I have. Measurable. Measurable. Your outcome is measurable when you have a clear way and know whether you have met it or not. An immeasurable outcome is, I will become confident by the end of this book. I'm using the techniques described in its pages. While confidence is sometimes difficult to measure, you can get creative and find ways to do just that. A more measurable outcome is, I will make direct eye contact with people in my new job. I will maintain confident physiology, posture, and bearing. And I will be more outgoing by initiating conversations with my coworkers. Achievable. Achievable ensures that your outcome is achievable. What is physically viable for you to accomplish? Ensure that you have a good likelihood of success. Remember that while you are unstoppable, you can achieve anything you desire, but you must simultaneously plan a smooth progression, driving a movement from point A to point B that stretches your comfort zone as you march toward success. Avoid setting yourself up for frustration by setting out outcomes that is unattainable in a realistic time frame. Plan your progression, know the small steps, and along the way you will be led to your ultimate goals. Achieving goals. Achieve them and reset your goals even higher. And if you feel like the shyest person in the world right now, setting goals to instantly be the life of the party will only set you up for a rude awakening. You can and will be the life of the party if you want, eventually. But first, with these early steps like talking to strangers and confidently asking about how are they doing? How are you guys doing? How are you doing? When you start there, that's the way it goes. Realistic. Realistic outcomes are outcomes that are, by definition, obtainable. And if you want to grow wings and fly, that is not going to happen. Asking for an unrealistic outcome is sets you up for a failure. Now, when you set realistic outcomes, you will be proud of yourself when you achieve them. Before Neil Armstrong landed on the moon, few people in America believed it was even possible. However, when a team of U.S. scientists knew that it would work in theory to do this to the very end, they designed the Apollo missions, which went to the moon, and the rest is history. As long as your outcome has a basis in reality, the theoretical feasibility, it is realistic. Timed. Make sure your outcome is timed by attaching specific deadlines to the accomplishment. As often as people want their dreams and they are to start to glow with a euphoria, they describe them to me as a perfect detail. Later on in the conversation, I inevitably ask them what their goals are: immediate, short-term, and long-terms. Their goals, if any, are radically different from and do not bear any resemblance to their dreams. Their dreams are what they really want. Those dreams are unlikely to be achieved unless there's a deadline attached, along with a workable plan on how to achieve those dreams. Goals are dreams with deadlines. Important goals do nothing for one's motivation. This is why it's so important to have an outcome of a book and a timeline as to when you want to achieve your specific measurable results. Goals are dreams with deadlines. Impotent goals do nothing for one's motivation. That is why it's so important to have an outcome for this book and timeline as when you want to achieve your specific measurable results. A good example is by the time I finish this book, after I gain unstoppable confidence, I'll be able to walk up to any stranger and introduce myself. Another good way is I will feel calm and relaxed when talking to strangers in social situations. Setting a goal contract. Along with other goals that you are setting, I want you to specifically set a goal for your confidence. I want you to set a specific, measurable, achievable goal for your confidence, and I want you to see through it to the finish. I've used this concept in the part of my goals, all the areas of my life, and I've always found it to be amazingly effective. Write out your goals using the SMART criteria that we have discussed: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timed. And at the bottom of the pages, make a space for your signature and your name on the date. And at the top of the sheet, give it a title: Goal Contract. And a legal definition of the contract is meeting of the minds, that you will write out the contract and sign it. Now think of it as a meeting of your own consciousness and your own unconsciousness minds. This begins legally binding a document, a legal contract, from which you must execute because of its binding power. Whether it's asking someone out for a date or demanding a raise from your boss, I want you to make it a goal to assert yourself confidently in at least one area of your life by a certain date near the future. Now remember, you're under contract now. Factor 6, action. Two young women both attended the same graduation class college 15 years ago. Samantha became a lawyer, and Kathy became an engineer in a high technology field. They are both proud parents, successful careers, faithful marriages. They own their own homes and by all appearances seem to be leading happy lives. The only thing missing is a sense of fulfillment in their careers. While they're both technically successful in their careers, they're equally disenchanted with them. Samantha does not find what she is doing fulfilling, and neither does Kathy. They do not eagerly look forward to work every day. 15 years later, however, something inside of them has changed, and they no longer find their careers rewarding. They both would rather pursue their true passions. Samantha has always loved baking and wants to open up her own bakery, and she learned how to bake as a child and has always enjoyed it. Samantha knows that she could do her own bakery and it could be a smashing success. She's envisioned it and people coming up from miles around to purchase her baked goods. Kathy has always loved music. She grew up listening to music. Every spare moment she could, she was singing in her church choir. She currently sings in a woman's group, yet she visualizes what it would be like for her to be a pop singer with her own CD, performing for vast audiences across the country. Fast forward 5 years. Samantha, while still yearning for her bakery, she's taken no action to actually make her dreams come true. And during the days she passes, she feels like she's wasting time in her life, in her job, in someone else's dream. Instead of jumping out of the bed morning, she has to nag herself internally until she rolls out of bed and heads into work, and she yearns for Fridays, absolutely despises Mondays, spending the majority of her time waking hours doing something that she finds despicable. She finds as if she's wasting her life. Kathy has taken tremendous action in her past 5 years and consequently has an album out, tours the region, has the kind of fan response that creates sold-out shows. The ideal lifestyle that she dreamt of 5 years ago has manifested itself through her efforts. She cherished each and every moment of her life. Her time was spent on stage singing the time she feels her most alive. She doesn't just exist. She knows she's living well. It seems as if her life is better and getting better every single day. Sure, she has her struggles launching her own new CD and getting her name out to be recognized. She has countless people to tell her so. In fact, of defeat, she persisted too. She never quit. She would have been easier to stay on her old job, and yet it would have been tremendously unfulfilling. Kathy paid the price through her commitment to live her dreams. She ultimately made her dream come true. Samantha and Kathy both had dreams and visions for their respective futures. Kathy took action and fulfilled her dreams. Samantha did not. The difference between the two is that Kathy had the confidence to put her plan into motion and take action. Samantha lacked the confidence, but the techniques Kathy practiced, combined with attitudes and beliefs she and other successful people hold while they pursue their dreams. These can be learned and put into use. Most